now I just want to show a close-up of the two blankets. So for the pink blanket, I used one skein of each color to make this full blanket, as well as the baby hat and the baby shoes. The baby hat and the baby shoes have separate video tutorials each. This pink blanket measures 29 inches across, and then the height is 41.5 inches total. And Spot the Dog has a separate video tutorial. I also made more Spot the Dogs because I loved that velvety soft yarn so much. I wanted to show it in the purple color too. So I have the purple color. And then this Spot the Dog, I also show how to make your own eyes, because some people don't like to use the safety doll eyes for baby gifts. So if you're worried about a choking hazard, I show how to make the nose out of yarn as well as the eyes out of yarn in the separate video tutorial for Spot the Dog, and he's quick and easy to make. The measurements for the blue one is 36 inches in width, and then the height is 45 inches. And here is the baby doll. My baby doll model is similar to a size 3 to 6 month old baby. So just to kind of give you a size idea with the blue blanket and with the pink blanket. The baby, again, is a 3 to 6 month old sized baby, and this is the baby hat that you'll be able to make. There's a separate video tutorial for the baby hat. And here are the baby shoes that you'll be able to make. These baby shoes will fit 3 to 6 months of age, so there's room to grow with these baby shoes. And again, with one skein of each color, so only 2 skeins of yarn, you'll be able to make this beautiful baby blanket, as well as the baby shoes and the baby hat. And here they are, all ready to be gifted. They would be perfect for a baby shower. On my blog, www.helenmaycrochet.com, I have a blog post with baby shower ideas, gift ideas, and games. So on video tutorial, I'm going to be showing a different style of yarn to make the same blanket. It's made the exact same way, but if you love this style of yarn that I use and you want to know what I used Yarnspirations Bernat Velvet, and the color that I used is Chilled Blue. So Chilled Blue is the light blue color, and I needed 2 skeins of this. So here's some information about this yarn for those of you that are trying to find an equivalent. It's a bulky 5, 10.5 ounces, 300 grams. So when I used 2 skeins, I didn't have much yarn left. I only had a little bit left. And then for the alternate color, this gorgeous darker blue, you'll have tons of that left. And again, I used the same yarn, the Yarnspirations Bernat Velvet, and the color for that is Navy Marine. It also has a free pattern on the label. The other one has a free pattern too, but it's a knit pattern. I used the same size crochet hook for the blue baby blanket that I made. It's a 6mm crochet hook, and in this video tutorial I'm also using my 6mm crochet hook with the different styled yarn. You're also going to need a tapestry needle or darning needle, and I like the one with the pointed end on it. And this is about the size of the eye. And also a pair of scissors. The yarn that I chose is Baby Mine by Baby Bee, Pinkaboo. This one has 5 ounces, 463 yards. The color is actually Pinkaboo. It's a light pink colored yarn with a little shimmer to it. And the alternate yarn choice that I chose is, let me see if I find the color for it. It's actually Boo Pink, so it's actually a little darker pink. And I'm going to try to alternate colors with this one. So if you use a different style of yarn for this baby blanket, then you may have to start with a different size chain. Now with my blue baby blanket, the Yarnspirations yarn, the chilled blue, I started with a chain of 107. If you're changing the size, the multiple is 7 plus 2. So to start a chain, you're going to start with the color of yarn that you want. For mine, I'm going to be alternating the color choices throughout the blanket. But if you're making the chilled blue one, then you would... So the blue one, I ended up with 32 rows using 2 skeins. And it was about 44 inches in height and 34 inches in width from left to right. So the first thing that you're going to do is just take your yarn, and I'm starting with my darker pink colored yarn. I'm going to fold the yarn over on itself to form a loop. I'm going to put my crochet hook right through the loop and then hold the base of the loop with my middle finger and my thumb. And then I'm going to yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for a slip knot. Go ahead and cinch that knot down. And then you're just going to cinch the loop around the crochet hook. And then you're going to make the chain that you want for your starting chain. I'm just going to show you 4 of them. So you yarn over, turn the hook upside down, and go through the loop for 1 chain, 2, 3, 4. So I decided to go ahead and make the same size chain. So my chain has 107 stitches in it, which is a multiple of 7 plus 2. So if you multiply 7 times 15, you get 105, and then you add 2 and you get 107. So a multiple of 7 plus 2. So I'm starting again with a chain of 107. So now you're going to count back to the 5th chain from the hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So once you find the 5th chain from the hook, you want to make 2 double crochet into that stitch. So you yarn over, go into that stitch, the 5th chain from the hook, go ahead and bring up a loop. You have 3 loops on your hook. Go ahead and yarn over, turn the hook upside down and go through 2. You have 2 remaining, yarn over and go through 2 to complete a double crochet. And then you want to make 1 more double crochet into the same stitch. So yarn over, go into the same stitch, bring up a loop, complete another double crochet. And then I just finished making 2 double crochet into the 5th chain from the hook. So now you're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then you're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. So skip 3 stitches off the starting chain, and then you're going to make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. So go into that 4th stitch, bring up a loop, and then complete a single crochet. And then you're going to chain 2 again. So chain 2 again. And then this time you're only going to skip 2 stitches off of the starting chain. So you're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then you're going to make a treble crochet stitch into that 3rd chain off of the starting chain. So to make a treble crochet, you yarn over twice. You're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and make the treble crochet into that 3rd stitch. So bring up a loop. Now you have 4 loops on the hook. Go ahead and yarn over and go through 2. You have 3 loops remaining. Yarn over and go through 2. 2 loops remaining. And then yarn over and go through those 2 remaining loops to complete a treble. And then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So you yarn over, go into the same stitch, bring up a loop, you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through 2, and then yarn over and go through 2. And then you need 1 more double crochet into the same stitch, so you yarn over, go into the same stitch, bring up a loop, complete a double crochet. And then you're going to chain 2 again. And then you're going to skip 3 stitches off of the starting chain, 1, 2, 3, and then make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. You're going to chain 2 again. This time you're going to skip only 2 stitches off the starting chain and make a treble into that 3rd stitch, so yarn over twice, skip 2 stitches, make your treble into the 3rd chain, and then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So you just yarn over, go into the same stitch and complete a double crochet, and then you're going to make 1 more double crochet into the same stitch. And you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way across. So you're going to chain 2, you're going to skip 3 stitches and make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. Chain 2 again. This time you're going to skip only 2 stitches and then make a treble crochet into the 3rd stitch, so you yarn over twice. Skip 2 stitches, make a treble into the next stitch. And then make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. And then you're going to chain 2 again. So I'm going to make 1 more set with you. So you're going to chain 2, you're going to skip 3 stitches and make a single crochet into that 4th stitch. You're going to chain 2 again. This time you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make a treble crochet, so yarn over twice, make a treble crochet into that 3rd stitch, and then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. So the treble and the 2 double crochet is considered the shell. And then you chain 2 and repeat. So go ahead, finish making your beautiful shells all the way across, and then come back. So now I have my single crochet, and I have 3 chains or stitches remaining from the starting chain. So you're going to chain 2 again, and then you're going to skip 2 stitches and then make a treble and 2 double crochet into the last remaining stitch. And now you just completed your first row. And we're going to move up to the second row. So to move up to the second row, you're going to chain 4. And then turn your work. And then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. Then you're going to chain 2. And then you're going to skip over those 2 double crochet, and then in the chain 2 space right before your first single crochet, you're going to make a single crochet into that first chain 2 space. So take your crochet hook, go into that chain 2 space right before your first single crochet, and then just make a single crochet. Then you're going to chain 2 again. And then in the single crochet stitch, you're going to make a treble crochet. So yarn over twice, go into that single crochet stitch from the previous row, bring up a loop, and then complete your treble crochet. Then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. Then you're going to chain 2. And then you're going to skip the first chain 2 space, the first shell, and make a single crochet into the chain 2 space right before the single crochet from the previous row. So you just take your crochet hook and you go into that chain 2 space right before the next single crochet. You're going to bring up a loop and then just make a single crochet. And then you could see that you made your first staggered shell. So you have a shell here and you have a shell there, and they're staggered. And that's how it's going to line up, all staggered, for each subsequent row. So now I made a single crochet in the space right before the next single crochet in the chain 2 space. Then I'm going to chain 2 again. And then I'm going to make a treble crochet into that single crochet space from the previous row. So I'm going to yarn over twice, go into that single crochet, and then bring up a loop and complete a treble stitch. And then I'm going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch to complete a shell. And then I'm going to chain 2 again. And then I'm going to skip over the first chain 2 space, skip over the shell, and then make a single crochet into the chain 2 space right before the single crochet from the previous row. And you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way across. So now I made my single crochet. I'm going to chain 2. And then I'm going to make a treble crochet into the single crochet stitch from the previous row. And then I'm going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch to complete a shell. And then I'm going to chain 2 again. And repeat. So you can see how your shells are staggered. Here's a shell, here's a shell, here's a shell, here's a shell. So now I'm going to skip over the first chain 2 space, skip over the shell, and then in the chain 2 space right before the previous row's single crochet, I'm going to make a single crochet. Then I'm going to chain 2 again. Then I'm going to make a treble crochet into the single crochet from the previous row. So I'm going to yarn over twice. Go into the single crochet stitch, bring up a loop, and complete my treble crochet. Then I'm going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. Then I'm going to chain 2 again and repeat. So go ahead, finish making your shells across to the end, and then come back and I'll show you how to finish the last stitch and move up to the 3rd row. So this is how my work looks so far, and I just finished a shell and I made a chain of 2, and then I'm right at the end. So here at the end you can see where I have my double crochet, 2 double crochet, and then you have the treble or chain 4 on the end. Well, you're going to go into that top stitch of the chain 4 on the end, or you can just go in the space. Sometimes I just go right in the space between the treble and the double crochet. So you just take your crochet hook, go right in that space, and then you're going to bring up a loop. And since I have a shell here and a chain 2, I'm going to make a single crochet into that stitch. So remember, we're staggering, so it's going to be alternating. Then after you finish your single crochet, you're going to make a chain of 4 to start the next row. So chain 4, and then turn your work, and then you're going to start with the 2 double crochet into the same stitch. And that's how you're always going to start the next row, with your chain 4, 2 double crochet. Then you're going to chain 2. This time you have a shell here. Remember the previous row, the first row had a single crochet. So we're going to be alternating between the single crochet and a shell. So depending on what you're working with, remember, for the single crochet you would make your treble, and you would start with the single crochet, well, and then you would make the shell. But I'll show you the alternating, how it would alternate. So since we have a shell to start, you're going to skip the chain 2 space and the shell, and you're going to make a single crochet into the chain 2 space right before the previous row's single crochet stitch. And then you're going to chain 2 again, And then you can make your shell into the single crochet stitch from the previous row. So you're going to make a treble into that single crochet stitch. And then you're going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch to complete a shell. And then you're just going to chain 2. Then you're going to skip over the chain 2 space, shell, and make a single crochet into the chain 2 space. And you're going to repeat this all the way across. And when you reach the end, come back and I'll work the end with you. So again, I made a single crochet into that chain 2 space. I'm going to chain 2 and then make my shell into the single crochet from the previous row. And then my 2 double crochet. And then you're going to chain 2. So don't forget your chain 2s. And then finish making your staggering shells all the way back across. And then come back. So now this is how my work looks. The staggering shells. It looks beautiful. I love that little glimmer that you get with this yarn. It's really pretty. And then, so this time you can see the previous row I had ended with a single crochet. But this time you're ending with a shell. And then I chained 2. So if you end with a shell, then you're going to make a single crochet into the top stitch of the chain 4 that you made, or the treble crochet stitch from the previous round. So like I said, I like to go between the last 2 stitches in that space. And then I'm going to bring up a loop, and since I ended with a shell here, then I'm going to end with a single crochet for the row. Then you're going to chain 4, and then turn your work. And then you're ready to start the next row. So again, to start, you're always going to start with the 2 double crochet into the same stitch. And then you're going to chain 2. And I don't have a single crochet here to start. I have the shell. So I'm going to skip over the chain 2 space, skip over the shell, and make a single crochet into the chain 2 space right before the single crochet from the previous row. Then I'm going to chain 2 again, and then I can make my treble 2 double crochet into the single crochet stitch from the previous row. And then you're going to chain 2 again and repeat. So here you could see how it looks. And then I'm going to skip over the shell, the chain 2 shell, and then into the chain 2 space right before the single crochet from the previous row, chain 2 again, and then make my shell. So this pattern makes it easy to tell when you made a mistake, because if you don't have the single crochet to make your shell in, and you're not skipping over a shell, then you know that you might have done something wrong, and then you have to find your error. and then correct it. Otherwise, your staggered shells, because you can see the pattern, you have the shell, 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 shell. They're staggered. So you're going to mess up that staggered design if you don't follow the pattern correctly. So then I finished my shell. I'm going to chain 2. And then you would make a single crochet after you skip over the chain 2 shell into the next chain 2 space. And then chain 2 and repeat. So go ahead, finish this row of staggered shells and then come back and I'll finish the row with you and then turn the work. So now I'm at the end again, and this is what mine looks like so far. You can see the beautiful staggering of the shells. And again, I ended with the shell and the chain 2. So I'm going to make a single crochet into that stitch between the last 2 stitches of the row. Then I'm going to chain 4, and then turn my work, and then you're ready for the next row. So now I'm going to make 2 double crochet into the same stitch. Remember, we always start the same way. So 2 double crochet into the same stitch. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then I have a shell here. So I'm going to skip the chain 2 space, skip the shell, and in the chain 2 space, I'm going to make a single crochet. And then I'm going to chain 2. And then make my shell into the single crochet stitch from the previous row. So the pattern is really simple. That's all you do to make your staggering shells and a gorgeous baby blanket. Now for this one, for my chilled blue baby blanket, I had used a solid color for the center of the blanket. And then I use the alternate color for the border. So for this one, I'm going to alternate the color in the center of the blanket. So I'm going to be making 8 rows before I change to the alternate color. And so after, if you want to alternate your colors as well, and you want to see how I did it, then after 8 rows, come back and I'll show you how I changed colors and then continued on with the alternate color. So to count my rows, I just count the staggering shells. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm on the 5th row. So now, this is what my work looks like. It's turning out really gorgeous. I love this design and this style of yarn. So now, I just finished. This is my 8th row that I'm finishing up. I just made my shell and my chain of 2. And I'm going to make a single crochet onto the end, just like we've been doing for all of the previous rows. And now I'm going to change colors. So now you're going to bring in your new color. So you just take whatever color that you're using as your alternate color. Again, I'm using my lighter pink color with the same style of yarn. So I'm just going to bring up a loop. And then you can chain 1. And then put your work down and then just tie a knot. And don't worry about the loose yarn ends. We're going to bury the loose yarn ends when we make the border. So now you're going to cut your previous colored yarn. Make sure you leave enough of a loose yarn end for burying into your work. So now we're going to start crocheting with our alternate colored yarn. And then you're just going to make your rows the same way that you did before. You start with your chain of 4. And then just turn your work. And I'm not going to bury my loose yarn ends because I'm making shells, and so you're going to be able to see the loose yarn ends if you try to bury it now. So just leave the loose yarn ends for now, because when we start crocheting the border, we're going to make a single crochet round for the border, and that will bury your loose yarn ends nicely. So then I have my chain of 4, and just like we did before, you're going to want to make 2 double crochet to start into the same stitch. And then you chain 2, and then make a single crochet into the second chain 2 space, just like we've been doing. And then you're going to chain 2 again, and then start your shells. So treble into the single crochet stitch from the previous row, and then 2 double crochet, and then chain 2. And then you're just going to start crocheting. I'm going to make 8 rows of the darker pink, 8 rows of the lighter pink, and then alternate. And when I come back, I'll show you how many total rows I made for this blanket before we start making the border. So now, when you finished your last 8 rows, I started with 8 rows of the darker pink, so I ended with the 8 rows of the darker pink. Then you can go ahead, if you're using the dark colored yarn, you can continue crocheting without finishing off, but I'm going to use my lighter colored yarn for my border, so I'm going to go ahead and finish off, just yarn over, and then just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then you can just take and cinch down that knot, and now I'm going to show you how many rows that I made. So here I placed them side by side, and the pink one that I made is 39 inches in length, and the width is approximately 26 inches without the border. So I have 72 rows total, and again there are 8 for each color. I started with a darker color. There are 8 rows of the darker, and then 8 rows of the lighter, and then I just alternated by 8 rows, and then I ended with the darker pink. And I have 63 rows for the grayish blue colored one that I made with the velvet yarn. So now, right where you finished off, you're going to join your new colored yarn for the border, and don't worry about your loose yarn ends. We're going to bury those now. So you're going to take your crochet hook, and I'm still using my 6mm crochet hook, and you're going to go into the stitch where you finished off, and then you're going to bring up a loop with the yarn that you want to use for the border, and I'm using my lighter pink colored yarn for my border. And then you just want to take and tie a knot, and then we're going to make a single crochet evenly spaced all around the border, and we're going to bury all of the loose yarn ends as we make our single crochet. So you're going to start down the side of the blanket. So down the side of the blanket, you're going to be working into the side where you made your chain 4s. So these are your chain 4s, which means that you're going to be placing, we're going to place 3 single crochet into that space. And then between the chain 4s, you have a space right here. So there's a space, here's the chain 4 space along the side, and then you have a space between the chain 4 spaces. So you're going to place a single crochet in there. So you're going to place 3 single crochet in each of the chain 4 spaces, and then 1 single crochet into the space between the chain 4 spaces. So to start, you're going to cinch the loop around your crochet hook, and then you're going to lay your loose yarn ends to the side of the blanket. So to start, you're going to make a chain of 1. Then you're going to go into the first chain 4 space along the side. You're going to go behind the loose yarn ends and bring up a loop and make a single crochet. And then you're going to make 3 single crochet total into the same space. So here's the second. And I'm going behind my loose yarn ends as I make my 3 single crochet. So I just made 3 single crochet into that chain 4 space. Now that brings me to the space between the 2 chain 4 spaces. So I'm going to go into that space behind the loose yarn ends and make a single crochet. Then I'm going to go into the next chain 4 space and make 3 single crochet into the same space. And you're just going to keep repeating this all down the side of the blanket. And when you reach the corner, come back and I'll work the corner with you as we turn to crochet along the bottom of the blanket. So now I'm at the space between the chain 4 spaces. And then I'm at the next chain 4 space. I'm going to make 3 single crochet into that space. So go ahead, finish making your stitches along the side of the blanket, and then come back when you reach the first corner. So I've reached the end, the corner, and I just wanted to show you this is what my work looks like so far. You can see that it creates a nice base for the border for the next round, and you're able to bury all of the loose yarn ends from the color changes real easily. So that's why I like this method. And now you can see how easy it is to bury the loose yarn ends. So if you wanted to make another style of blanket with more color changes, you could do that, and you see how easy it would be to hide those loose yarn ends with the base for the border. So now you're at the corner. So we're going to turn the corner, and you're going to turn the corner the same way for each of the corners. So you want to, I just finished the 3 single crochet in the chain 4 space. I'm going to turn my work to work along the bottom. I'm going to make 1 more single crochet into the same space. Then you're ready to make a single crochet into the next space. And for the top and the bottom, you should have 1 to 1. So now you have 3 stitches. I'm going to go underneath those stitches just because it's easier. So just go under it for 3 single crochet. And then that brings me to this next space. So I'm going to make a single crochet into that space. And you're just going to evenly space your single crochets across the bottom. So now I have 2 stitches. So I'm just going to make a single crochet into the space underneath. So I have 2 stitches there. So I'm going to make 2 single crochet into the space. And then I have 1 space that I'm going to make a single crochet into. Then I have another 3 stitches. So I'm going to make 3 single crochet into that space, and you're just going to repeat this pattern all the way across the bottom. So you want to evenly space your single crochets and make 1 to 1, and it'll make a nice base for the border. So I'm just going to work a few more with you so you can kind of see how I work my stitches along the bottom. So now I have the next space. I'm going to make a single crochet into that space. And then I have 2 stitches, 1, 2. So I'm going to go into that space and make 2 single crochet. And then that brings me to the next space, make a single crochet into that space. And then I have the 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to make 3 single crochet into the space. So go ahead, finish making your single crochet stitches all the way around the blanket, back to where you first started, and then come back. Now I'm back to where I started, and I only have, let's see, oh, I do have 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go ahead and make 1 more single crochet into this chain 4 space for my last corner, and then I'm going to slip stitch into the first single crochet that I made along the side. So just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook to join. So now we're ready to make the design for the border. So the first thing that you're going to do is chain 1, and that's going to count as your single crochet. Then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then make 3 double crochet into the same stitch. So you just yarn over, go into the same stitch, bring up a loop, yarn over and go through 2, yarn over and go through 2, so there's 1. Two, and 3. Then you're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3, and then you're going to make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. So skip 3 stitches, then make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. Then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Then you're going to make 3 double crochet into the same stitch. 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to make this beautiful border so it looks like a little triangle around the border. So now again you're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. Then you're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then make 3 double crochet into the same stitch. And you're just going to keep repeating this pattern all the way to the corner. And when you reach the corner, come back and I'll show you how to make your pattern around the corner. So now you're going to skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and make a single crochet into the 4th stitch. I'm trying to see my 4th stitch. Then you're going to chain 3 and then make 3 double crochet into the same stitch. So it's that simple. Go ahead and repeat this pattern all the way down to your first corner, and then come back and I'll work the corner with you so you can see that you're creating a beautiful sawtooth pattern or triangular pattern down the side for your border. So this is how my border looks. It looks really good. And I've reached my first corner. Now on the corner I try to get one of the triangle shells on the exact corner. So if you skip only 2 stitches, so here I just made a shell down the side and I have only 2 stitches until I get to the corner. So I'm going to skip only 2 stitches this time and then make a single crochet into the stitch on the corner and then chain 3 and then make my 3 double crochet into the same stitch. And then I'm going to skip only 2 stitches again as I turn to the bottom of the blanket. So I'm only going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then make a single crochet into the 3rd stitch. And then chain 3. And that way I get a shell on the corner. And then I chain 3. And then make 3 double crochet into the same stitch. And then I can resume skipping 3 stitches and then making a single crochet into the 4th stitch and then repeating the pattern. And you want to make sure that your blanket lays flat around the corner as well. So not only did I try to get a shell into the corner, but I also made sure that my corner stays flat. So that's how you work the corners. So go ahead, repeat the pattern, the pretty shell pattern, all the way around back to where you started, and then come back. Then when you finish your last shell, you're just going to skip the next couple of stitches and make a slip stitch into the base of the first chain 4 that you made. Just yarn over and pull the yarn through both loops on the hook. Oop, try that again. Then, after you finish your slip stitch, go ahead and finish off. Just yarn over and just pull enough yarn through to bury into your work. Then just kind of cinch that knot down. And then we're going to bury the loose yarn end. Just place the yarn onto the tapestry needle. And then you're just going to weave it through your work. And I like to go a couple of different directions. Then you can go ahead and trim the loose yarn end. And then bury any other loose yarn ends that you may have missed. And then you are all finished with your gorgeous Staggering Beauty baby blanket.